much for joining us today. I'm Katie Hacker, and this season we're creating heirlooms with new twists on traditional techniques. Joining me today is podcast host Mandi Ainsworth, and we're going to have a little chat, and then Mandi's going to be back with a project for us. So welcome, Mandi.
Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so delighted to have you here. Now, how long have you been hosting your podcast?
It's been about 3 years now, and I do about 1 episode per month.
Now, what got you started doing that?
Well, I kind of have a natural curiosity for asking people how did you come up with that, or where did you get that idea? Yeah, I know, right? So I wanted to do something that really inspired people, that while they're sitting in their studio beading, they can get ideas and inspiration and kind of hear it while they're doing their work.
That's a great idea. Now, did you listen to a lot of podcasts yourself?
I do, and that's part of what made me want to do it, because I get so much out of the ones that I listen to, whether entertaining or learning something.
Yeah, and I bet you get to interview all your favorite artists too.
I do. I loved interviewing Marcia DeCoster. She was my absolute favorite interview.
Oh, that's great. She's a great, wonderful, she does wonderful beadwork, of course, and she has a lot of creative tips too, but so do you, right? So tell us the top tip for creative people.
Well, my #1 tip is to do your work in the morning before you do anything else. You're allowed to go get a cup of coffee, but after that, just to have 30 minutes to an hour to focus in on your work and have that time. So no matter what happens the rest of the day, you made meaning in the morning, and that makes your whole day special.
Definitely, and you know what, when I find that my creative time is best in the morning anyway, and kind of wake up energized and ready to start on whatever I want to do. You know, and by the afternoon, other things start kind of trying to get your time, I guess.
Exactly.
So you can get that done. It feels like you really accomplished something too. Yeah, kickstart to the day.
Definitely.
So what are some other tips that you have for creative people?
So when a lot of people on the show, or my audience, will ask, what do I do when I get stuck?
Everybody wants to know, where do you get your ideas and what happens when you run out, right?
Exactly. So the first one is to get inspiration from a photograph. So it can be the architecture, the color palette, just something in the photograph that jumps out and grabs you, and then take that and see where your inspiration leads you. My second one is, when I'm really stuck, I take a walk out in the grass, and just barefoot in the grass, and that really helps, you know, wake me up and, you know, get in touch with nature, pretty much, because a lot of guests tell me their #1 inspiration is nature, so that's a great way to go out and just
definitely get out there and enjoy it. Yeah, now you mentioned photographs. Do you take your own pictures too, or do you find other photos that inspire you?
A lot of times I look on the internet and I might search a certain country, Flickr, or, you know, a lot of the picture sites, I'll just browse through there. 500px.com is a good one as well.
You know what? Looking for countries is a really good idea, because a lot of times I read some books about creativity that said just any kind of foreign travel already opens up your creative outlet, because you have to figure out all the things that are normal to you, like where to eat, you know, how to get there, what you're going to do today. Things that you don't always have to figure out in the same way at home become much more difficult when you're traveling, especially when it's in another language. So I could see how even looking at photographs of other countries kind of could open that part. You know, the different colors and different costumes and all those different ideas really get the juices going.
Absolutely.
Yeah, now what about materials? Because I know a lot of my ideas come from the materials themselves. Are you that way too, or do you have a different process?
I love to do mixed media projects, so I will incorporate fabric or decoupage in my beadwork as well. So that's another great tip, is combining any other craft that you do with beading and see what you can come up with.
Yeah, so 1, look at pictures, 2, get outside, 3, a little bit of mixed media, exploring other avenues. All right, so what's your favorite thing to do when you're beading, when you're doing exactly what you want to do? What would it be?
I think it would be putting the beads wherever I want. So not necessarily following a pattern, but just like my necklace here, just kind of going with the flow. And this turned out to be sort of a abstract butterfly, but like I had no idea really what it was going to be when I first started, and
it's a really beautiful
journey.
piece.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. It looks like you incorporated a lot of different sizes too.
Yes.
So you have a lot of textures going on there. When you started that, did you have all of those materials collected, or did you kind of start with one and then it just grew from there?
Well, I had a general color palette, and then I pulled out a lot of stuff you know, had it all spread out on the table, and then I just kind of gravitated towards what I felt needed to be in that particular section. And then I was like, well, here, this kind of bead would be perfect. Then I go in my stash or try to find it or order it or whatnot. So
I know that ordering, ooh, it's dangerous.
it can be very dangerous because you're like, well, I don't want just one thing, and then, yeah.
All of a sudden you have a whole new supply.
Exactly.
Do you have a favorite color palette?
I think turquoise and copper is one of my favorites. Also, anything with purple, I love. So
Yeah,
all shades of purple.
All those colors are some of my favorites too. And you know, purple is the color of creativity, so that's particularly good. I mean, those things are making a lot of sense. It's all coming together here.
Yeah.
Who are some of the other people that you've interviewed for your podcast?
Let's see, Carrie Slade, Margie Deeb about her new book, In Jewelry in the Body. That's really interesting to me and to my audience. I interviewed Gail Goddard, the Clutter Fairy.
Oh,
so
wow,
she
I bet that
helped,
was fun.
Yeah, she helped people really give lots of good tips on how to organize your beads for artists, and not so much from the personal organizer where they want to put everything away, but where they have it all out so it's available to use and organize that way instead. So that's probably the second most popular episode.
Oh, that sounds like a really good one. I'll have to go and listen. So have any other tips for beaders? We need to do it, make sure we do it every day or at least once a week or something like that to get our creative juices going.
Well, I do have a sketchbook that I keep. So when I see something in a magazine, I'll rip it out and stick it in there. When I see a shape that I like, I will sketch it in there. Just whenever the idea hits, I make sure it gets in that book. So when I sit down, I'm like, okay, time to design a class project.
Yeah.
I'm not like frozen like a deer in the headlights. I can go to my book and have lots of ideas to work from.
That's a really good idea. So especially, you know, anytime the muse strikes, you can just flip right to your journal and find what you're looking for. You know, some people also take paint colors and put those into that idea book. I do that sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Or cut out pictures of, a lot of times I use outfits that I think I might want to create a piece of jewelry to go with it, you know.
I like that idea.
Even though I might never wear that outfit, I just clip it so that I can make a piece of jewelry that matches or coordinates in some way. So you can use that one for your journal too.
I definitely will.
You know, another idea might be to put, like how you were mentioning travel and other countries, you could even clip in postcards or some kind of maps. And I mean, inspiration comes from so many places, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, this has been really great, and I can't wait to go and listen to your podcast. But before we do that, let's take a look at the project that we're going to do. And using the fabric cabochon, and you're going to do some bezeling. So this is bringing your mixed media and your jewelry making together in one.
Definitely,
right?
yeah.
So, and this necklace here is a sample, sort of similar to what you're going to show us to make, right?
Yes, it is.